Good day to all of you that want to have a good day and to those of you that don't really want to have one. Let's go ahead and have one. I'm Jared Johnson, the Jared J. On this good day, joining me to my left is a most frequent recurring guest to the channel, Talmadge Rodger Varnado III.
And if you didn't already know that, that means you're not watching.
That means you haven't paid much attention because he's been in 84 or 17% of the episodes thus far.
We got to explain that one day.
Maybe after 18 or 6 more occurrences. So today we're going to look back in time a little bit. Some of y'all may see this after the 2026 NFL draft takes place. So we're going back 5 years and looking at the 2021 NFL draft. We're not going to analyze every pick for all 7 rounds. I've selected 10 players that were first-round picks, and we're going to just look at 5 years later, how have their careers progressed, and were they justified for where they were picked, how their careers going, do we see anything changing? That's kind of what we're going to be looking at.
And I think ultimately that's how drafts should be measured anyway, but we all fall into the trap of right after the draft, you go online, what grade did your team get?
Right.
From some writer. Well, first of all, that's his opinion. And secondly, nobody knows until 3, 4, 5 years down the line if that really was a good draft or not. So that's why I thought this was a fun exercise.
And I'll name a guy that we're not talking about today because he wasn't drafted this year. But when the Packers drafted Aaron Rodgers and still had Brett Favre, did they need him that year? No. Was that a great pick? It may not have looked at it for 3 years. After Brett Favre was gone, I think they were pretty happy to have Aaron Rodgers. So there's cases like that. That's just the first one off the top of my head. But to Talmadge's point, you can't always know the very next year if that draft pick turned out. Now, the guys we're talking about were all first-round picks. Most of the time, if a team spends a pick that high, you do expect a very serious return on your investment, and usually a pretty quick one.
Well, here's another way I look at it. Not that we're doing this today, but another way I look at the draft is this. Let's say you're in the NBA and your team needs a point guard. And so you're drafting for position, which everybody says, oh, draft best player available. But if you have an extreme need, you're going to move that player up on your board because you need that position.
I don't need 2 more power forwards if I need a point guard.
And so what happens is, though, the way I look at the draft sometimes is, let's say your team did need that point guard. And 3 years later, the point guard you drafted was a bust. Well, everybody ranks on the team and says how bad they drafted.
Right.
But what you got to look at is, okay, did any point guards after he was selected, were any of those guys successful?
Right.
Because if none of those guys were successful either, there was just not a lot of depth.
I needed a point guard. You're acting like I should have taken another one. None of them.
And they didn't pan out either. So there's all
same.
kind of ways to actually look at the draft.
Yes.
It's kind of the reason I think we're doing this is because, again, a lot of times people, especially nowadays, they want that instant. They go right online. How are they looking at my pick? How are they grading my pick? Oh, we got an A in the draft. They haven't played a game yet.
You haven't done anything. You don't know what. And I will say, too, real quick before we jump into the number 1 overall pick that year, that's another reason why I'm a big proponent of maximize everything. Look at free agency. Look at doing some trades. Don't depend on, I'm going to draft a guy that's never played a game in the league and expect him to save my franchise. Sometimes you will get a Jaden Daniels in the draft. Or, gosh, there's been guys, Barry Sanders, there's Lawrence Taylor. You're going to find those guys sometimes in the draft. But if you need, let's say, a quarterback, Talmadge has said this so many times in the channel, the mentality is, we got to draft a quarterback. We got to draft a quarterback. Is anybody in the draft better than the one you currently have? If so, then go for it. Or is there a free agent out there that's about to be 30 that may not be your franchise answer but can get you through the next few years before there's a guy in the draft that's worth taking? There's so many angles, and I don't like this mentality of we're going to draft a quarterback early who's not justifiable of a top 10 pick, but we need a quarterback. Okay, well, did you go after free agents? Did you look at maybe doing a trade for somebody?
We may see that this year. I don't think top 10, but Ty Simpson's going to sneak into the first round probably. Tape-wise, he's probably not a first half of the year. He was a first round pick. Second half, not so much. And there's not that big sample size, just like we talked about with previous
1 year's
quarterbacks. Yeah, with Richardson in Indianapolis. 1 year, one good camp, one good combine.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you know,
He's
moved yourself in the top 10 and top 5 in that case.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
But yeah, back to topic. Yeah.
But all those things are factors in what you're going to hear us discuss today. So for the 2021 NFL Draft, with the first overall pick, the Jacksonville Jaguars did select
Trevor Lawrence, quarterback, Clemson.
Now, I will say I completely understand why they made that selection. They did need a quarterback. This young man had a phenomenal college career, helped Clemson win the national championship as a true freshman, had 2 other pretty good years. He missed part of his junior year, I think, because he tested positive for the coronavirus. That was during the pandemic. That kind of hurt some of his success. But if I recall correctly, as a starting quarterback in college, he only lost like 2 games.
Yeah.
I think he lost bowl games as a sophomore and junior after having an undefeated freshman year. So
there was no reason. Yeah, there was no reason not.
It would have been idiotic not to take him.
He sometimes there is that quote unquote, and this term gets used an awful lot, but I'll say it, that generational talent.
Yeah.
And he checked all the boxes.
Yeah.
He could run, he could throw, he was a leader.
He's got great
was a winner.
size. He's got experience.
Literally, he could be the face of your franchise.
Yes.
I mean, for marketing, and that matters. People, that stuff matters.
Whether we think it or not, jersey sales and ticket sales
and he
all
checked
that.
every single box, no
yeah,
question.
There was no reason not to take him. They would have been, if they hadn't taken him, that's that foolishness.
Right.
So I'll recap real quick. As a rookie, the Jaguars did go 3-14. As a starting quarterback, you're going to get a lot of that pressure on you, but just because you're drafted to be the face of the franchise doesn't mean you turn around in 1 year. Just a quick side note, Peyton Manning's rookie year, the Colts went 3-13, and he had a pretty good career himself.
Yeah.
So struggled early on, did Lawrence. As a rookie, he did have 3,641 passing yards. Here's the bigger problem. 12 touchdowns, 17 interceptions. So, like any rookie quarterback, he had his struggles. And I will say, I'm not going to go exhaustively through every year, but 2022, they were 9-8. I think they made the playoffs that year. Then they had an 8-8. And then 2024, he was injured, played 10 games. Jacksonville went 2-8 in those 10 games. I think by late 2023 and then into 2024, there was some talk of he's not the superstar we thought he was. He's not going to make it. He wasn't the franchise quarterback. I'm not saying the organization was thinking about replacing him, but I heard a lot of talk of, I remember when Trevor Lawrence was supposed to be great.
And again, you're looking, not you, but I'm saying those folks are looking at the record. And I think I brought this up to you once. I don't know if we were recording or not, but we were talking. And I said, going into last year, if you put Daniel Jones' stats right by
Trevor Lawrence,
you wouldn't tell the difference. I mean, they were eerily, it was like almost to the number, the same exact stats.
Yeah.
But the perception of Daniel Jones is, well, he's a bust. The perception of Trevor Lawrence is he's still that franchise quarterback, but then people would argue and say, but yeah, he's got the same numbers as a guy you called a bust.
The guy that everybody thought was a joke after he got injured in New York.
And you've heard me say this before. I think it's the first time I've said it on air here. But that's why I always say numbers are like bikinis. They show you a lot.
Part of the story, but not everything.
They show you a lot, but they don't show you everything.
When we used to work together, it was the first time I heard that phrase. I'd never heard it anywhere else in life until Talmadge.
And in this case, it's true. If you're just going by the numbers, they're the same player. Are they?
Are they the same player? So little bit of a spoiler. If you hadn't seen the episode Talmadge and I did ranking our top 10 current NFL quarterbacks, you can go back and watch that one. Trevor Lawrence was not on either one of our lists, but when we named some guys that we thought about that almost made the top 10, Trevor was one that I said I didn't quite contemplate putting him in the top 10 right now, but despite what's happened so far, he's still very young. I think he's got the ability. I could see him in another 2 to 3 years being in this discussion and being somewhere in the mid to late top 10
based on this year.
So let's now jump to his 2025 season.
He's definitely in the top 10 now.
Jacksonville went 13-4. They snuck up on people by the end of the season. Nobody was really talking about them. For the season, Trevor had 4,007 yards passing, 29 touchdowns against 12 interceptions, 359 rushing yards with 9 rushing touchdowns. Okay, he's not Lamar Jackson or Jaden Daniels, When you can get close to 400 rushing yards and 9 touchdowns
Yeah.
with 4,000 passing and almost 30 touchdowns, and your team goes 13-4, I think for the first time, I would say it's hard now not to say he wasn't a justifiable first overall pick. If he continues playing the way he did in 2025, I don't know that there's a question of was that worth.
Well,
was it worth that
and
pick?
unless he gets hurt again or something, or his play just drops off, I mean, I agree.
Yeah.
And I know it's based on one season, but I don't blame the first couple of seasons on him because obviously, again, you're going to the worst team in the league.
That's why you were picked
You
number
were poorly
one. Yeah.
coached and all those things. The middle couple of years, I did kind of blame on him because it's like, okay, now we're in year 3 or 4 or whatever it was. When are we
Where's
going?
the
Where
progression? Yeah.
And then this year's the quarterback we all thought we would see, and I don't
Mm-hmm.
see any reason why that's going to change unless there's some kind of injury.
Unless he has a horrendous injury, I don't see that changing.
They've got a really good coach. They've got good pieces. They're in an interesting division. Some people say it's weak, but I say it's competitive. There is a difference.
Yeah.
And so we'll see. I mean, yeah, can I say he's top 10 all time forever? No, of course not.
No.
But I just don't see him regressing out of the top 10 now.
It'd be
I
extremely strange. Like you said, anybody can have a horrendous injury. But if they continue to put weapons around him, he's now in a position where they're like, okay, yeah, this really is our franchise
And this
quarterback.
is what's
and
expected
this is why
now.
we drafted him.
Yeah.
And now it's expected. So now, Trevor, you got the keys to the kingdom. Take us there.
So the next step is just consistency. Like
Yeah.
we say, we've got to see it year after year, but I just don't see why we wouldn't.
At this point, I don't.
There's no reason why he can't
So
do
like I
this
said, coming
again.
out of into the draft, he had all the physical tools.
Yeah.
He had the success in college. He had 3 extremely successful years. He could make most of the throws. He was tall and athletic, and there's just too much
No
going.
weakness.
And now that he's proven what he has, yeah, I think prior to this past season, I was like, no, he's a good quarterback. Now I'm like, no, he's a very solid quarterback. He has proven he's like jumped over that hump.
Going into this year, I kind of put him in the same category as Kyler Murray, who had flashed
I
some
can kind of
things,
see that.
who
Okay.
had some talent, was a first-round pick, a high
He was the
pick.
number 1 overall pick
Yeah.
as well.
But
in a
we're kind
different
of at a
year.
crossroads.
Yeah.
Am I going to grade you on what I thought you were going to be, or am I going to grade you what you've actually done?
Mhm.
Well, one quarterback passed the test. The other one is on a different team.
We're
now.
waiting to see what Kyler does in Minnesota, but that's a good comparison, despite the fact that one's 6'6" and one's 5'10".
Right.
As far as their trajectory,
situation,
that's a
yeah.
pretty good comparison. All right, so the number 2 overall pick in the 2021 NFL draft.
Well, before we move on real quickly.
Okay.
So, would you say, and I want to do this with every single player that we're
Okay.
talking about, would you say he has exceeded expectations, he's met expectations, or below expectations?
I would say as of this past year, he's now meeting expectations.
That's what I would say too.
Yeah. He hasn't exceeded yet.
Real
but
close
he
to
might.
it. If he does this another year or two, it's exceed.
Yeah.
But right now, I'll say he has met.
As of the end of last season, he's meeting expectations, I think. Again, I don't know what the organization thinks,
Right.
but that
Well,
is
they won
mine.
13 games with him, so I think they.
I don't know how they would disagree, but again, I don't speak for them. But yeah, I like that. Let's do that. They're a player. So the number 2 overall pick, the New York Jets selected quarterback.
Zach Wilson, quarterback, BYU.
Again, this is a case where they needed a quarterback. He did have a solid enough college career. I can see why they thought maybe he was going to transition. Again, as a rookie, okay, they went 3-10 in the games that he started. We can't blame all that on him. He hasn't, in my opinion, progressed a lot in the league. He, as a rookie, he had 2,334 yards passing, 9 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. The next 2 years, he had 6 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 8 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. 2023, Aaron Rodgers started over, even then got injured, so Zach Wilson got a chance to start again. Didn't do much better. The Jets were 4-7, and then he got benched later in the year for like Tommy DeVito, and there was a couple of guys. They like rotated.
Tim
because
Boyle was in
Tim
there.
Boyle. No, Tommy DeVito might have been who started over Daniel Jones with
Yeah,
the
with the
Giants.
Giants, yeah.
I'm sorry. Tim Boyle is who I was thinking of. So Zach Wilson, and then he went to Denver 2024, didn't play a single game.
I didn't catch the Zach. I got it now.
Yeah, Zach Wilson. And then he was a backup with the Dolphins last year, played 4 games, did not make a start, did not have a touchdown pass. I would say for him, they drafted a quarterback because they thought they needed a quarterback. To my point that I made before we launched into all these picks, the Jets might have been better off looking at free agency that year. And I'm not saying anything against Zach Wilson as a person. I do not know him as a person. But what we've seen thus far, he has not had success on the NFL level. And personally, from what I've seen, I don't have reason to believe, oh, just wait. Oh, just wait.
Yeah.
Maybe, and I don't know that. My personal opinion of him, I could see him being a moderately reliable backup for the rest of his career. And I'm not trying to insult him. You have to be phenomenal just to get to the NFL.
Well,
but that's really where I see him.
He's at the point of his career, the only time he's going to get a chance to start again is if he backs up and somebody gets hurt. It'll never be because we're going to bench this guy and go to you. It's going to be because...
I don't see him beating somebody else out in camp. Like people, unless there was a case where he was brought in and a rookie that you weren't sure about was brought in, and maybe Zach Wilson beats him out.
Well,
I don't even know if I see that.
I can, depending on the situation. I mean, look at the Cardinals now.
Well,
that
that's
type
true.
of team,
That's true.
They've got a bunch of backups competing for the starting job.
Gardner Minshew and Jacoby Brissett.
It's going to take that type of situation, or like I said,
or an injury.
I don't see somebody saying, we're handing the reins to you.
Here's our quarterback.
It's going to be someone gets hurt. We've got no choice but to go to him. He gets in the right situation because he does have some physical tools. You don't get picked that highly without physical tools.
And you don't have the success in college that he had without having.
Well, that's tools. And I don't know this. Maybe I'm wrong, but my recollection was his college career that in depth? I only had like 1.5 years of really being the starter.
Yes, it wasn't a long.
It wasn't a big sample size.
Yeah, it wasn't a big sample size.
And I hate to say it, but you look at the competition. It was BYU.
I
mean, I can see why they liked him because I actually saw him play. You know, I'm a Houston Cougar fan. They played Houston that year, and you saw the arm talent. I can't say it's not there, but there's so much more that goes into it. One thing I will say about all these guys, especially the ones that don't meet expectations, it's not always necessarily their fault. I mean, they got to take some blame.
Yeah.
But the situation you get into, the opportunity that you've had, and plus, you know how the league is. If you're drafted at highly and you get off to a slow start, all of a sudden you get that label. Oh, he's a bust. When people see you as a bust, do they really give you a chance?
Almost never.
And so he's kind of in that. He might be great for all we know, but now he's got the label of he's a bust. Yeah, I'll bring him into camp because I need an arm or I need a backup.
I need somebody on my bench in case somebody gets hurt.
Just somebody can run the plays if somebody gets hurt. Yeah. Not even win. Let's just keep me competitive.
Go out there and take the snap and do something with it.
But like we keep saying, it's going to take a situation where, wow, we stumbled into this. Yeah. No one's going to sign him as a free agent and say, I'm signing you to be the guy. It's not, if he's past that.
No.
But he's going to have to turn it around if he gets an opportunity to do so.
And I'll never say never because a lot of people talked the same way about Sam Darnold a few years ago. Now, Darnold had proven more already than Zach Wilson has. So there was more reason for optimism.
But the comparison's still valid.
But the comparison's still there. They drafted McCarthy. It was like, Darnold, you're just here as a insurance policy, and then look how that turned out. So,
or even my old team, the Titans, when they went to Tannehill years ago.
That's true.
He had a decent career with the Dolphins. In fact, they signed him to a second contract in Miami. So obviously he wasn't a bust.
There was something to it.
But he was just a middle of the road kind of quarterback. And all of a sudden, they benched him because Mariota was inconsistent. And all of a sudden, Tannehill, for those 2 or 3 years, now it wasn't a long stretch.
No, but
for those 2 or 3 years, he's one of the best quarterbacks in football.
He was.
And nobody saw it coming.
He wasn't just decent. He was one of the better, like you said, in the league. So could that be in the cards for Zach Wilson at some point? Sure. My honest opinion, he'll be a moderate backup. Yeah. Guillermo Santetecayupo. Who is it? Patrick Ewing. We're good. Y'all, just listen closely if you want to know some of these Irvin references. But yeah, for Zach Wilson, I see him as a moderately reliable backup the rest of his career. And the question of has he failed, met, or exceeded expectations? he's failed right now.
Yeah,
and again, is it all his fault to Towns' point? I'm not going to say that. Has he been given adequate opportunities and everything? I can't say that. You're the number 2 overall pick, and this is what it's happened.
Facts are
so
what
far.
they are.
Yeah, I'm going to say he has failed to meet
So
expectations.
below. Okay.
With the number 3 overall pick, the San Francisco 49ers select
Trey Lance, quarterback, North Dakota State.
So, top 3 picks were all quarterbacks.
Zach Wilson, ditto. And go to the next player.
Okay, Trey Lance, we're gonna move right past you. Trey Lance played at North Dakota State, so smaller school is one of those cases where he looked really good, but against that kind of competition. But you could say that about Ashton Genty. You could say that about Jerry Rice and Walter Payton.
Yeah.
So I get it. I also understand why San Francisco took him. And unlike Zach Wilson, I'd say Trey Lance has more physical traits to where you could say, I can see that guy becoming a great quarterback. He's got more size, speed, athleticism. I understand why they took him there. And even though it's very small, he did show some flashes at San Francisco. It was not much. It was like he started 2 games as a rookie, and for the year he had 973 yards passing, 5 touchdowns, 577 yards, 5 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. So the numbers weren't eye-popping, but most of those stats came in those 2 starts. Like, in those 2 games, he did show some flash. That's all I'm saying.
Here's the one thing I would say about him, though, that's different than even Zach Wilson. Because there's a lot of similarities. You know, were they given a fair
Career
shot?
trajectory,
All that kind of things. But what I would say about Trey Lance is you did go to San Francisco.
You were in a very good situation.
If you can't show yourself
You didn't develop there.
Now maybe he'll be like a Sam Darnold who went there as a backup and just learned from the system.
Yeah.
And then he translated that into the career he has now. Although Trey's moved on to a couple of teams since then,
He
it
went to the
hasn't
Cowboys,
really made a scratch.
23 and 24, and now he's on the Chargers last year.
And if the Cowboys would have seen something in him, they would have kept him because he didn't sign for a big deal to go anywhere else. And they need a backup. At the time, they don't now, but at the time they needed a backup.
Why wouldn't they have kept him?
So why wouldn't they have kept him? So I'm a little more skeptical of him just because you had a little bit better situation.
Well, he wasn't thrust in to be the starter right away, so there was less pressure, and you're in a good organization.
You were in that system, though, and it's like they saw something in you. So obviously, hey, if they see something in you, there's talent there. I'm not saying there's not. But I thought we'd see a little more, and I'm not as willing to give him the same room that I gave even Zach Wilson.
The situations are different. It's interesting because my take is similar but a little bit different. I would say I still see more potential in Trey Lance just for the reasons that he was drafted. But to your point, that potential hasn't translated yet, and he's been in some good situations. Obviously, unless Justin Herbert gets injured, he's not getting a chance with the Chargers. Nobody's stupid enough to think, oh, he's going to now, please. Different conversation, but Justin Herbert's one of the better quarterbacks in the league. Without an injury, Trey Lance's best opportunity right now is to learn from Herbert, learn from Mike McDaniel, learn from Jim Harbaugh, and hope you can go to a team in a year or two that needs a quarterback where you'll get a chance. And that could happen. I'm not saying that it will. Talmadge brings up some good points. He's had time to develop, and maybe we'll see that at some point. Maybe we'll see it all come together. As of right now, without doubt, he has failed to meet expectations.
Yeah, below expectations
Number 3 overall pick, and you started like 6 games in your career.
And I hope I'm wrong because I liked him a ton coming out.
Yeah.
I liked him a ton.
There's reasons to be optimistic, so.
I liked him over Zach Wilson, to be honest with you.
I did too.
Out. And for both of them, I would have thought one of them would have had more success than this, but that's how it works sometimes.
And just think about it. And back to the point that Talmadge makes sometimes. Some of these teams panic. You got to get a quarterback. You got to get a quarterback.
Yeah.
These 2 teams did. But to San Francisco's credit, they were trying to get a quarterback of the future to stash. So
to me, that really shows they saw a lot.
That really showed they'd spent the number 3 overall pick on him.
Because a franchise that successful, you're probably not going to be in the top 5 very often.
Mm-mm.
So when you are, you think they would take a player that would help them that year. But they liked him so much
that
they're
took
going
him-
to take the only time we're going to be in the top 5 of the next 5 to 7 years, and we're going to take that on a player who's not even going to play for us
who
this
we
year.
don't want to
But we
start
can't
this
pass
year,
him
but
up.
we can't pass him up. That says a heck of a lot. So again, will we see it one day? We could. We're waiting.
Yeah.
We're holding our breath if you want to hold it. Right now, there's not, outside of just saying, oh, there's a physical tools and look what they saw when they drafted him. Outside of that, he's given us no reason to believe.
And I hope all these
He's
young
gonna-
men that we
Oh, yeah.
might say didn't meet expectations, I hope every last one
I
of
don't
them
want to see him fail.
yeah, turns it
Neither one of us
around. I
wants
mean,
that.
yeah.
All right, Talmadge, tell us about the number 4 overall pick in the draft that year.
The Atlanta Falcons select Kyle Pitts.
Very interesting. Coming in, he was again the generational talent.
Oh, yeah.
And I bought it. Okay, I'm not saying I didn't buy
Tight
it.
end for the Florida Gators.
I bought it. And when he came in, and I didn't even realize this until I did some research. His rookie season, he had 1,000 yards receiving, which
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Only the
I had
second
forgotten
tight
it.
end in
Yeah,
history
since Mike Ditka.
since Mike Ditka.
Yeah. So that
Yeah.
that surprised me. Another plus is the physical gifts. You can see them then. You can still see them now.
Yeah.
So that's there.
The size, the speed.
I think he was the first rookie tight end to make the Pro Bowl since 2002.
I think that's,
Which I had
think you're
forgotten
right.
he made the Pro Bowl his rookie year. So based on that, you would say, okay, he's automatically exceeded because of the start he had. But then we've had some injuries. Okay, can't blame him for that. That happens. Inconsistent quarterback play in that organization.
That system, yeah.
Yeah, so you can't blame him for that. What I would say at this point, though, is if I had to say, where he ranked or did he meet expectations, it's almost about changing perspective. I don't know if I can say generational talent anymore, although that's still a possibility. Okay?
Right.
But especially with a new coach, an offensive-minded coach, who knows? We'll see.
Yeah.
But what I would call him is a solid starter versus a generational talent.
Yes.
And based on that, I would say he's slightly below expectations if I was grading it out.
Mm-hmm.
But everything is still in front of him. Of all the people we've talked about so far, if he does start to exceed expectations, he's the one that would surprise me the least to do so. Because he's right there to do it, but I just can't say he's done it yet.
And I completely concur. This past season, he did have 928 yards and 5 touchdowns. So this past year, he was one of the better tight ends in the league. So he kind of reminded those of us that have maybe started to write him off of why he was drafted that high. So like Talmadge said, the athleticism, all that's there. Generational, no, I can't say that. I see as a rookie why people were saying it.
Mm-hmm.
He did only score 1 touchdown as a rookie. That's one of the negatives against him. But a lot of these other factors, not his fault. What's he going to do from here going forward? And I would say, especially because he was the number 4 overall pick, I'd say he's below expectations. If they'd have taken him in the second round and he had the exact same career, I might say he's met expectations because he's had enough flashes.
And that's a good point. And I wanted to say that at the beginning, and we both forgot to say that. But exactly. We're not saying these players in some cases are good or bad. They could be good players. In fact, in some cases, they might even approach greatness. But we're basing this on where they were taken.
Where you were drafted.
If you was taken in the third round, it's a steal. But in the first
100%.
round, you're called a generational talent. Have we
You're
seen
a top
that?
10 pick. Have you justified? So that for that reason, I would say Kyle Pitts definitely is
below expectations.
expectations.
But
A
like
lot
I
of
say,
reasons to
he's
believe he
close
could-
to where
yeah.
if we have the same conversation next year, I could easily change this.
We
to
could
an
easily
exceed.
say he's at least meeting.
Yeah.
All right, Talmadge, what about the number 5 overall pick?
The Cincinnati Bengals select Jamar Chase.
Who did the Cincinnati Bengals
Well, why
select?
don't you tell me what you call him?
Jamar R. Pursue diligently.
Okay, there we are. I don't have a lot to say about him because obviously he's met
Okay, the number
expectations.
6 pick. I'm kidding. Go ahead.
But obviously, I'm going to jump right to the end. He's met expectations. Now, you might say, why not exceeds? It's hard to exceed when I thought what he was doing is what he would do.
True.
So If you tell me exceeds, I'm not going to argue because I know why you're saying that. But this is what I expected him to do. So to me,
That's a
he's met
strong
my
point. He's
expectations.
been phenomenal.
Right. And
but
I
does that
expected him to be.
exceed what we thought? Because he should have been phenomenal. Look at the college career he had.
So take that with a grain of salt. If you say exceeds and you're yelling at the screen right now, I get it because numbers wise, yes.
I wouldn't argue either way.
But I expected him to be this good, and he's done that. He's met the expectation. But what I will say, the strange thing about his career is, and it was just the preseason, but his rookie year in the preseason, they were already calling him a bust. It was drop after drop after drop in the preseason. And even I was like, how could I be so
wrong? What's
wrong
going on with this guy?
But once the lights came on, it changed so quickly. And you're like, how stupid was I to jump to that conclusion that quickly? But he was horrible in the preseason. And the other thing I will say about him, he's done all this, and they've had a lot of injuries at quarterback. And he's still done this. And don't get me wrong, Burrow's healthy. He's great. I'm not saying he's not.
Level,
But they've had a lot of injuries, and he's
even
still
with
produces.
Jake Browning and Joe Flacco, you don't shut him down like Jamar R. And withdrawing a lot of double teams. Yes, T. Higgins is great, but Jamar R. gets the main focus. And man, he just keeps producing at a high level. I'm not going to go through everything, but all 5 years he's been over 1,000 yards. He's had double-digit touchdowns 2 of those years. He had 17. He won the Triple Crown of receiving in 2024. Led the league with 127 receptions, 1,708 yards, 17 touchdown receptions, 13.4 yards per catch. The guy, he is as good, arguably the best receiver in the league right now. There's a few of the guys I think you could put in the discussion, but he's as good as anybody.
Well, and the way, and I listed it here in my notes. I put he has solidified himself as a top 5 receiver, and I'm just giving it room because really it's top 2 or 3. But I'll say top 5 because there are some guys that haven't done it for as long. But if you look at their production over the last couple of years, you might could say, well, he's right there with him. So if you're saying top 5, I won't argue it, but I would give him the edge and Jefferson the edge because they've done it for the longer period of time. So for me, they're 1 and 2, but that's not knocking anybody else.
No, the puking nicotines and the Jacksons between
Right. I mean,
are up there, but it hasn't been consistently 5-6 years yet. So I'm on board with that for sure.
So definitely he's met, like I said, in my opinion. But if you say exceeds, I'm not going to argue.
I wouldn't really argue that. All right, Talmadge, the number 6 pick. Who did the Miami Dolphins select?
The Miami Dolphins select Jalen Waddle.
Alabama Crimson Tide.
And this is one of the more interesting people we've talked about.
Yeah. I'll first say I was a little shocked he went that high. Like, he was good in college, but I didn't think he was really top 10 pick good. Maybe it's just me, but I remember being like, really? Like, it threw me off a little that he went that high.
That didn't surprise me. I will say he got off to an excellent start.
Mm-hmm.
I believe he had over 100 receptions his rookie year.
He did, over 1,000 yards.
He was a deep threat early on, too. He averaged 18.1 yards per catch, which for me, when you talk receivers, that's one of the more important stats that people don't look at.
Yeah.
They look at the number of catches, they look at the yards. I'm more interested in what do you make it happen on each play individually. And so for me, that's big. So he got off to a fantastic start.
More impressed usually with yards per catch than I am catches, because you can catch 100 passes that go 5 yards to get tackled versus catching 50 passes.
And both are valuable,
40.
but one they have different impact. They have a different impact altogether. But here's where I struggle with him a bit. He's become more of an intermediate target now. That yards per catch average has dropped. This is not his fault, but obviously he's overshadowed by Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
When you bring in Tyreek Hill, he's going to be the number 1.
You traded for him to be the number 1.
At least when they got him. Now we can't say that. But back when they got him, they brought him in to be the number 1. He's had no all-pro selections or anything like that. They have had questions at quarterback. I can't blame that on him.
Yeah.
But if we add it all up, I'm going to say he's below expectations.
I would say slightly below at least, because, again, the numbers are good. He's been good, but for the number 6 overall pick, compare him to the receiver we talked about that was 1 pick higher. Yeah. I would say Jalen Waddle below expectations, but not drastically so.
Yeah, like he's a talent.
He's good.
If he's on your roster, you're not going to be like, get him off my team. And, again, like a lot of the guys we've talked about, let's see what happens when they get a quarterback.
And
Tariq's gone now.
Well,
So,
but also we didn't mention this. Waddle recently got traded to the Denver Broncos.
That's what I'm saying.
So yeah, he's now in a whole different
he's got-
situation.
Offensive minded
He's
coach.
there with offensive minded coach Bo Nix.
Yeah, well, the Bo Nix thing, I'm not that, but yeah.
Yeah, we've talked about that before too. We'll see.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's
And I love Bo Nix out of college. I don't know why I'm so down on him now.
Yeah,
but-
Talmadge is not. Talmadge is kind of looks at Bo Nix like I talked about Zach Wilson. Maybe
Oh,
not quite.
No, not that. Not that bad. I can't say anything bad about a quarterback who's taken his team to the playoffs the first 2 years of the league.
There's that.
But
Yeah.
long term, well, let's not get off.
Yeah. Topic within a topic. If you follow the channel, you know that's kind of my thing here. Well, with the number 9 overall pick, the aforementioned Denver Broncos did select
Pat Surtain, Jr., defensive back, Alabama.
Just a real quick side note, he and Waddle were college teammates at Alabama, both going in the top 10. There's another guy we'll talk about pretty soon that was also one of their teammates that year. They were kind of a loaded team that did win a national championship.
Just that 1 year, never again.
No, you have to. That's why I mentioned it. Pay attention. Alabama was good.
You might
that
not have
year.
heard of them.
Yeah, Crimson Tide.
I was going to call them the Tigers. I didn't know.
Surtain, I would say, he's had a very solid career. He was a starter from day one. You start at corner. First of all, if you're taking the top 10, you should start, most likely. But you start at corner, going up against all these great receivers as a rookie. That's no easy task. As a rookie, he did have 14 passes defended, intercepted 4 passes, returned 1 for a touchdown. He's what you could call a shutdown corner.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he's one of the guys in the league that can legit, and you're not going to always shut down a Pursue Diligently or Justin Jefferson or some of these guys. But if you got Surtain, he's going to make they're going to have to really earn having a great night if this guy's covering them. That's all there is to it.
And I like it because he wants to follow the best receiver. He doesn't
Oh,
want
yeah.
to stay on one. Now,
Let
sometimes
me
they
have my stats and roam around.
Well,
I'm locking this person.
sometimes in that defense, so they keep him on one side,
Mm-hmm.
and he doesn't like it because he wants to travel with the best
Oh, yeah.
receiver, and I like that about him.
I do too. And for 2024, he did win NFL Defensive Player of the Year. He had 4 interceptions, 132 return yards, including a 100-yard interception return for a touchdown against the Las Vegas Raiders. I would say at the very, very least, he's met expectations, if not slightly exceeded.
I would go with
He's-
exceeded, and you might say, well, what's your argument? Because the receiver you talked about,
Yeah.
meaning me, I said I'm going with Met because I
You
expected him
expected
to
him
do
to do this.
Here's why I'll give Surtain the exceeded.
Okay.
Like we've talked about recently, to me, cornerbacks are a lot about relief pitchers in baseball. They might be great 1 year, and then all of a sudden that same pitcher comes out and his ERA is 6 or 7. You're like,
Yeah.
what happened to this guy? And it's a lot with cornerbacks in the league. They can have a great year, they get into a different scheme, or just another year, or they have an injury, and all of a sudden they're not the same player anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give him the exceeds because he's done what I thought he would do, but he's done it consistently, and he's actually done a little more than I thought he would do. Because I knew he'd be good.
He's done it for 5 years.
but he's probably,
yeah.
what, a top 2 corner, top 3?
I would say
I mean-
him, Christian Gonzalez.
Yeah.
You put Derek Stingley in the conversation, but yeah,
And I'd put Surtain
top 2 or 3. I would say.
above both those guys. But those other 2 guys
Yeah,
are great. But
they're
I'd put
all-
so to me, when you're the best at your position, because even if you draft somebody in the top 10, I don't know if you can say we expect to be the best at his position. I think this guy's the best at his position. So
That's a good point.
putting meats, I'm not going to argue because I did the same thing with
Yeah.
Chase. But I'm just giving the reason why I would lean towards exceeds on this one. But I'll say the same thing I said last time.
Yeah.
But if somebody does says meats, I'm not going to argue because I know what they mean.
Yeah.
They expected him to be this good, and he is.
Yeah, I would say he's borderline exceeding, and I wouldn't even disagree to say he's exceeding for the reasons you mentioned, especially if he does it at this same level for another year or two. Then you're getting that
Yeah.
level play out of a corner for that many years. That does exceed because, like you said, you don't necessarily draft somebody thinking they'll be the best at their position.
Exactly.
And with the number 10 pick, Talmadge, the Philadelphia Eagles selected another one of Surtain and Jalen Waddle's teammates.
Devontae Smith, wide receiver, Alabama.
Had a phenomenal final year of college, winning the Heisman Trophy, 1,800 yards receiving.
He's the first person on my list that I've put at an exceeds. And I'll tell you why. He's the model wide receiver in production, right? Despite his frame. He's not the biggest guy in the world. In fact,
he weighs about 170.
Yeah. And a lot of people had concerns about that. Hadn't been an issue at all, right?
Truthfully, at his size, it's a wonder he hasn't had a lot more serious injuries. That is very true.
He's a 1B receiver, but that's only because they've got another receiver.
Brown,
It's pretty doggone good. But to be even considered, I didn't say 2, he's 1B, and you have Brown on your team, then that tells you how good he is. Because on most teams, he would be the number one.
Devonta would be the number one receiver on a lot of teams.
I am curious to see what the future holds because the A.J. Brown rumors, I don't think A.J. Brown is going to be traded. Those rumors have died down. But I will say that it wouldn't shock me if he still was.
It wouldn't shock me at all.
It's coming. It might not be this year, but it's clear that relationship is not long.
No.
And so I'm curious to see what he'll do when he actually is the number one receiver.
If A.J. Brown gets traded this year, Devonta could have a 1,500-yard season.
Yeah. And
think he's
for the Eagles to be good, he's going to have to.
Yeah.
Now, like I said, I don't think Brown's getting traded now. Because a lot of the places that he was presumed to go have already kind of filled those slots.
That is very true.
And we're deeper. People don't realize we're deep into the offseason now.
Yeah.
And usually these type of trades are made after winter meetings or right after free agency when it all sorts out. Now, there's still one more chance at the draft.
There is.
But if he's not traded around the draft, I just don't see it happening. But if it does, I'm curious to see what Smith will do. And he has exceeded my expectations by a wide margin, really. Because to be honest with you, he had the great senior year, but he was kind of small. He came from a system that you always produce in.
Him,
so I'm like, okay, he's fast, but there's a lot of fast small guys in the league that are slot receivers or become return men or third receivers. So I didn't see this, even though he was taken in the top 10. But he's exceeded.
Yeah, those are some strong points. Just looking at him, you don't think he's going to be a dominant receiver. And think about this, Njigba's a pretty small guy. He's got like 20 pounds on Devonta Smith. So to put it in perspective, Devonta really has.
Well, besides us today, tells you how good he is. No one talks about his size anymore.
No,
we have now, but I'm saying normally you don't hear that. Yeah, it's like that's not a problem, so we're not going to bring it up.
It's not. Yeah, it hadn't been. All right, with the number 11 pick,
my Chicago Bears select Justin Fields, quarterback, Ohio State.
If you follow the channel, you know I'm a big fan of the guy.
And I'm not.
And talent is not. I'd say this is a little bit broad because there's a lot of guys, but I'd say he's one of my favorite players. If you rank the entire league, he'd be in the high. He's higher than a lot of people. I love the athleticism.
Hard to have a favorite player that doesn't play, but okay.
I said he's one of. But his career's really been a roller coaster. He did start his first 3 years with Chicago, or the majority of those games anyway. The Bears didn't have success as a team. Justin has shown a lot of flashes, but the athleticism is indisputable. As a second year in the league in 2022, he became only the third quarterback in NFL history to have 1,000 yards rushing in a season, 1,143 yards, 7.1 yards a carry, 8 touchdown runs. He also had 178 yards in a single game against Miami Dolphins, which is an NFL record for a single game.
So if he was drafted as a running back, he'd be exceeding.
He might be exceeding.
He was drafted as a quarterback.
He was drafted as a quarterback, and therein lies the challenge. His passing numbers, he's got the arm strength. It's the intermediate passes. It's some of the decision making, and we could do a whole episode about all that. We won't for the sake of time. But the passing numbers have never been dominant. He had 17 touchdown passes, 11 interceptions in 2022. And then he goes to Pittsburgh in 2024. Started the first 6 games, and while his numbers weren't mind-blowing, I felt like he did good enough to justify starting the rest of the year, but they did bring Russell Wilson to be their starter. And after those first 6 games where Justin did lead them to a 4-2 record, he was mostly used on gadget plays. Then he goes to the Jets in 2025, and I at that time said, here's his chance to really prove what he can do. He's got Garrett Wilson, he's got Breece Hall, he's the starting quarterback. Here's your opportunity, Justin Fields. And while he again showed some flashes and the athleticism was there, he did have some good games. He also had some pretty poor games. He had against the Broncos, he got sacked like 9 times. He had an atrocious game against them. He started 9 games and the Jets were 2-7. That's not all his fault because the organization has a lot bigger problems than just that. But it became pretty clear at a certain point that the coaching staff and the organization just didn't have confidence in him. So while he is one of my favorites, and I love the style of quarterback he is, I'm going to say as of right now, there's just no question. Failed to meet expectations. You're taking at number 11.
Yeah.
And you're now, and he got traded in the offseason to the Kansas City Chiefs. He's now with his 4th team.
Yeah.
He's clearly going there to back up Patrick Mahomes. Although Andy Reid did say, I drafted this guy because I think he can win some games to start the season if Patrick's not ready. I do believe in him. That's why I brought him here. Like I read a quote where Andy Reid was saying, like, yeah, I believe in Justin Fields. That's why I want him started.
What's he going to say? I don't believe in him.
Right.
We signed him anyway.
We went out and got him, and then I don't trust him.
Here's my concern with Justin Fields. I don't blame him for the Jet stuff because no one's done well there. Although you'd like to see something. All right? I don't blame him for the Chicago stuff necessarily because that organization hadn't had a Pro Bowl quarterback ever, right? Until now. Okay?
Did they never have one?
The last good quarterback they had was Jim McMahon.
I was going to say Jim McMahon.
And he wasn't a stud.
No.
He had a great defense and a run game, and he made big plays. But no, so that organization has never had a good quarterback,
right.
So I'm not blaming him for that. But here's where I fall apart with Justin Fields. Pittsburgh was the perfect opportunity.
Yes, it was.
You can't deny that. You have a coach that believes in his players. You have the opportunity to start. I don't care that they brought in Russell Wilson. Now, they wouldn't have made both moves. I think they got one, and they were surprised the other one was available, so they went ahead and got it. Yeah. I don't think they would have purposely picked both. But I will say this. You were the younger quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
You were even the higher draft pick, even though Russ had won Super Bowls. I get it.
Yeah.
But I'm saying coming into the league, Russ was a 3rd-round pick.
That's true.
You were a 1st-round pick. You're younger. Right? You've got all these quote-unquote great traits to be a good quarterback. You didn't make it happen. And while your numbers weren't horrible and the team won, this was a team that starved for a quarterback.
Yeah.
Since the last 2 or 3 years of Ben Roethlisberger's career, from this point till now, they've been looking for a quarterback. You get a 1st-round, top 10 pick to be your quarterback, and he doesn't take advantage of it.
That was your opportunity,
I can't explain that away.
And I don't disagree with that. As much as I like him, that's all true. I can't dispute that. I think he was a good fit for that system. They've got a strong running game, a strong defense. Use him or run pass options. He can. Some people say, well, he just can't pass. He can't pass. I won't go that far. He can, but that's not his. He needs to develop that. Now, Talmadge brought up a good point a while back saying the best thing for Justin Fields is to go somewhere, be a backup for a couple of years maybe, and then we'll see if he has a Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Daniel Jones resurgence. I still believe that could very well happen, and Kansas City might be the best place.
And here's the thing. People might say, well, he's already done that. Here's the difference. Every place else he's been brought in to be the backup, he wasn't necessarily brought in to be the backup. He was brought in to compete for the job. I'm talking about like the situation he's in now.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, Patrick might not be ready the first few games, but let's assume that he is.
Yeah.
Right? There's no way Justin Fields is competing for that.
No.
That's the situation I'm talking about. To go to a situation where it's not even expected that you
And if
compete
Justin
for the
starts
job.
5 games before Patrick's ready, when Patrick comes back, game 6, Patrick is starting.
Right.
We know there's no way around that.
And that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Get with a good offensive mind and a good quarterback where you are the legitimate backup. There is no, well, but you can compete for the start. None of that.
No.
You are the bona fide backup.
Yeah.
Take a year or 2 there and then go somewhere else, maybe. But if he can't make that happen in this situation, he has no chance.
And I can't dispute that. So my hope as a fan of him is that this will be what he needs to develop in areas where he needs to develop. He's got offensive-minded coach, good offensive system, playing behind arguably the best quarterback in the league. And
one thing I will say about him personally, though, is obviously I don't know him, but from everything I've
Yeah.
seen, read, heard, great person.
oh yeah,
Great person.
I like him
so
a lot in terms
I
of
hope
that.
I'm wrong. I truly do. I hope he proves me wrong
Yeah.
and he
And
becomes.
you've never said anything against Justin Fields as a man. You've even the stuff he's saying now. We've talked about it off camera plenty of times. In fact, you texted me one day and said, "I see more of why you like this guy now."
Very impressive. Very
Yeah.
impressive young
Solid
man.
young man. I'd love to have him on the channel. I think he's a great guy. Very outspoken about his faith in Jesus. I like him a lot.
Yeah.
Partially why I want him to succeed, to be honest,
mhm.
and just because I like the style of quarterback that he is. We'll see what happens from here. But yeah, again, Talmadge is not disparaging him as a person at all. Just the facts are there. I mean, I can't, as much as I like him, I can't dispute and say, no, he's a great pastor. No, he did this, he did that. I know what he's done, and I know what he hasn't done. All right, so the last player we'll discuss.
The Dallas Cowboys select Michael Parsons. Woo! Linebacker, Penn State.
He can run and cover all day long. Running backs and tight ends is not an issue.
What I was,
Of the Green Bay Packers.
yeah. What I'll say about Micah Parsons is I didn't know a lot about him in college because I don't watch a lot of college. If the Houston Cougars aren't playing, I'm probably not watching. But coming into the draft, of course, I was doing my draft preparation and reading up on him, and I did watch some games that he played after the fact.
Yeah.
And I was like, why? This guy's a top 5 pick. I knew he wasn't going to go in the top 5 because it was a quarterback-heavy draft,
Yeah.
so that was going to knock him down. But I'm saying talent-wise, I was like, this guy's top 5. And I'll tell you right now, he's exceeded my expectations. I shouldn't have led with that because I know we wait till the end, but I'm going to jump right into it. I thought he was going to be fantastic, and he's exceeded my expectations.
He's had at least 12 sacks, 5 straight years.
Now, he is you hear this term game changer a lot. He is truly a game changer. He is it's not just we're saying the words. He is legit.
He's a beast. I mean, he's big, strong, fast, athletic.
And if he plays a full season,
yeah,
I could see him challenging the sack record for a season in his best year.
it's possible. So far, his career has 14, so he hasn't really got there. But
different team,
the
different
ability
system.
is there.
Well,
yes.
different team and different system too.
Yeah.
Green Bay does not move him around as much as Dallas did. Although his last half season with Dallas, they didn't move around as much. So maybe they were going to stop doing that
on what
anyway.
you're saying,
yeah, but I think that'll help him. Now, there are some flags, and I'm talking about all the positives. One thing I can't debate or dispute is the fact that typically in his career, the second half of the season, he tails off.
We see it pretty much every year.
And in the playoffs, he's a non-factor. He's like the James Harden of football. He's got to change that.
Yeah.
I'll still say he exceeds because I'm basing it on the regular season and just his game-changing ability. But there are some things he needs to work on. But I think he's got something to prove. I know he's with Green Bay this year, but he didn't get hurt. I'm talking about coming into next year.
Yeah.
He's really got something to prove. Stay healthy, new team, dominate. And again, they're not going to move him around. Well, they might now because they've lost some pass rushers. But if they stick to what they were doing last year, they're not going to move him around as much, and he can zero in on specific job tasks. So I think he can even be better. But yeah, he's going to have to be solid the second half of the year. And assuming they make the playoffs, he's going to have an impact in the playoffs. Because at the end of the day, if you don't do that, all of a sudden this exceeds turns into a meets. But going by the regular season,
I concur because he's been one of the better pass rushers and players of that position in the league over the past few years. So I definitely do concur. So all right, there's our assessment of looking back 5 years and where these guys have progressed, and most of them have at least meet expectations that we talked about. There's some that still have some things to prove, and there's some that are on the cusp of, I'd say, true greatness. So always kind of fun to just look back and go, hey, what were people thinking at this time and what do we see now? So thank you all so much for stopping by today. Let us know in the comments, do you agree or disagree? Are you still not confident in Trevor Lawrence? Is Micah Parsons overrated? Do you agree? Do you like Justin Fields better than I do? Talmadge can't
That's
believe
not
anybody
possible.
would.
It's
Yeah,
not
if anybody
possible.
does, let us know.
Maybe Miss Fields, but
maybe-
that's about it. And I ain't talking about the cookies.
I like her cookies. So I was getting ready to say, send us some of your cookies.
I was talking about the cookies.
That's all Chris is thinking about too. So yeah, let us know in the comments what you feel about any of these players. Do you think Devonta Smith needs to lose 3 pounds?
Oh, no.
Let us know what you feel.
He'd
If
be
y'all-
even faster.
Yeah, he could deadly fast at that point. Let us know if you did like the episode. You can show that by clicking the like button. If you've not already done so, please subscribe to the channel. It will help enable me to bring you more of this type of content as well as many other types. So, for Talmadge Rodger Varnado the third, I am Jared Johnson, the Jared J. Hope you have a great week. Thanks for stopping by, and hope I see you again real soon.